Lovely listeners and voluptuous viewers, you are back down the red rabbit hole, and I am one of your lovely hosts. I am thriller author V Peacock, otherwise known as Nicky, and of course, with me, as always, is the lovely Lisa Shepherd. Lisa,
Hello, hi.
comedian and therapist. I forgot your
Oh,
intro.
I was going to say, don't say it. It's fine.
I love
Just
it.
say who I am and that I'm here. That's enough, I think.
People can see you
That's
though.
enough for everybody.
That's enough. That's enough for
You
me.
can see me. Although we've definitely got, like, I think it's quite clear that we have very different cameras because yours seems quite sharp, whereas mine seems to be this slightly. I look like someone's put like an Instagram filter, but not a good one.
I look like a ghost. I mean, let's just say it how it is. I look like I've
You're a
crossed
bit
over.
sharper, like you're in
You
focus,
think?
whereas I look like I'm slightly talking through a sea of smoke, you know.
Well,
The alarm's been going off for 20 minutes now, but I don't think I need to evacuate. I'm sure it's fine.
yeah. Hey, it's a good shot. Let's just run with it. So we are doing
What do we talk about today?
we're doing a special episode as we
Another one?
tend to do, a
Mhm.
little bit special, purely because it was a case that I came across. I actually saw a dramatization on ITV about it. It's the Ruth Ellis case, which was the
Oh,
last woman
yeah.
to be hanged in the UK. And
Yeah.
I'd heard her name, but I hadn't really known much about it. And it wasn't until I watched the series that I thought, I've got to find out more. And you just it's such a sad case because she was such,
Mm,
although she did kill someone. I mean, she never, said otherwise. She never claimed
no,
otherwise. But
no.
my God, was she pushed towards it.
In
And
fact, that was her downfall, wasn't it? That was the
yeah,
thing that meant that capital punishment, mandatory capital punishment was that what happened because she said, when I shot him, I intended to kill him.
yeah, but not surprising. And the thing is, though, if that
Mhm.
same case had happened now, she'd just be in therapy. They probably
I
wouldn't even incarcerated her for what she did because he
do you
did.
not think?
No, I think he's so. I mean, for I little quick recap for those that perhaps don't know the case.
Hmm.
So Ruth
Hmm.
Ellis was really ahead of her time. She was a single mum. She looked amazing. She looked almost Marilyn
Mm,
Monroe-like. She was very well put together. She was a businesswoman. She had two children. They had two separate fathers again, which was something that wasn't really heard of in the 50s.
mm,
And she met this guy. It's the downfall of us all, isn't it? Met a
hmm.
guy. She fell in love with him, and he was not the best guy. He was
To put it
abusive,
lightly.
he cheated and lied, and he was just kind of all round the worst kind of man you can come across.
Mm,
And
mm.
she got pregnant by him, and he kicked her until she lost the baby. And because obviously he didn't want to tie himself to her like that.
Yeah, and this was a sea of, this was the pinnacle of a lot of domestic abuse over the
Oh,
years of their relationship. Yeah.
definitely. There was coercive control, things we know
Mm,
now that they just didn't know back then. That's
mm,
why I think they'd have looked at even just the kind of the miscarriage and saying with the hormones,
mm,
I she wasn't in her right mind. She also had
mm,
a really bad defense, if that series is anything to go by. I mean, I don't know much about the kind
mm.
of the sort of judicial system back then.
It was of the time though, wasn't it? Because I think the only thing you could get at the time, if you had, if it was capital punishment, mandatory capital punishment, was what it says on the tin, mandatory. The only way you could get a stay of execution was actually political, I think. It needed to come from the Home Office rather than through any judicial kind of means. So it was quite a political thing to get a
Mm,
stay of execution.
yeah, but of anyone, she deserved it. She really did. She deserved to not
Mm,
be in that position. She deserved to,
mm,
at the very least, just to be given life.
yeah.
And that
Yeah.
it was all within, and there was a big kind of storyline again in terms of fact and fiction. This is a dramatization that I'm
Mm-mm.
I'm quoting from. There could be fact, there could be fiction in there, but it looked like there was another guy that she was involved with who
Mm,
on the surface loved her, but
mm.
was literally pushing her to kill this man.
The cousins, yeah. He went on to
Mm.
live a very long life.
Oh, well.
He didn't die until some point in the 90s. I think it was like 1998 or something ridiculous like that. Like he went off to Australia and lived a long, happy life.
Yeah, there's no justice, is there?
And he
He
did, I
gave her the gun,
think,
didn't he? He supplied the gun. He
well,
taught her how to
not
use it.
just that, the son did see
Mm.
him teach her how to use the gun.
Yeah.
Also, what was really sad is I think her children didn't fare particularly well either, did they? Like nobody involved in that whole scenario. So I think her son took his own life.
Oh.
Yeah, he died by suicide he wasn't particularly old, and I think, losing his mum in that particular way, it was very public. It was a very, there were people campaigning outside to get her off. There was a lot of public outcry about that execution. And her case was absolutely pivotal in the change in the law that then took away capital punishment, so it then didn't become mandatory. That there were more. I think it was something to do with you had to shoot a police officer, kill a police officer, and it maybe had to be something to do with a burglary or something to then warrant the death penalty. That changed a couple of years after she died, and then they outlawed, or well, they didn't actually outlaw it. So what did they say outlaw? I can't remember what the precise change was, but there was another change in, was it 65, around the death penalty, which meant that it was no longer used in the UK. It was, no, they put it off for 5 years. That's what they did. They just postponed it for 5 years to see how it goes.
Well, as you
Yes,
do.
if we don't have the death penalty for people, let's just give that a try. But did you know, and this actually, I think this is where I've got 1998 from, but I do know he died in the 90s. But do you know that they didn't actually abolish the death penalty in the UK until 1998?
Mm. Well,
And for those for our Gen Z listeners out there, I know that sounds to you like a really long time ago, but for us who were there, like that doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Yeah, it's about 30 years ago now, but coming up to, but like it doesn't feel like it. But yeah.
well, as you know, I am actually a fan of the death penalty. I think they should bring it
What?
back.
Oh
I
gosh.
I know we've had this debate before, but I think
When
for
I
certain
said we
cases,
wanted some controversial content, Nikki, I didn't
no.
like no. Okay, go on then.
I don't think for
Put it
every
out
case of
there.
murder, because there are, like the Ruth Ellis case, that was
Mm,
completely,
mm,
I'm not being funny, but justifiable. That man
mm,
should have had more than a couple of bullets in his chest
mm.
for what he did and what he put her through. But I think, as I've mentioned before, I think serial killers, those that have been proven to have killed more than three people for for giggles,
Mm.
I think there's no rescuing them.
Mm,
There's no rehabilitation there. Just get rid of them. As soon as the families agree, because obviously they need closure if there's bodies to be
mm,
found and things like that. Just because, we talked about prison, didn't we, before? And they should a lifetime in prison should be enough of a, deterrent slash kind of torture for them. But those kind of people don't care about prison. It's just a different playground for them with different people to torture. So I think certain people do and should just,
you go-
pull those
you have
limpets
a.
off society.
I think there is a stark difference between us, Nikki, and it is our belief for the possibilities of society,
Well,
for the sanctity of life, and the fact that humans
yeah, but they killed. They
can be
did.
good.
If you look at like we've gone way off topic, but if you look at like
Mm,
Ted Bundy, if he'd have just
yeah.
been executed at the time,
You right.
there,
You always
there
have a go
we'd
at
have
me.
we'd have
You
saved
always
like
have a go at
5
me
women.
about Shipman, but you
Oh,
chuck Bundy into
I
every
do like a
conversation we
bit of
have.
Bundy.
Yeah.
He's a good story. I mean, the very fact he represented himself just make
Yeah,
it's fun.
yeah.
But he did that
Maybe
to
if
get
Ruth Ellis
out.
had done that, she would have done a better job.
Maybe. I mean, the other thing with Ruth Ellis as well, getting it back on point,
Yeah.
is she
Ruth.
was vilified. There was people trying to save her, but there was
Mm,
also people wanting her dead because she was
mm,
vilified because she was a different type of woman. She was,
mm,
independent. And again, it kind of shows, also in terms of like coercive control and domestic violence, how it can affect any woman. You can look at some women
Mm.
and think, oh yeah, she's mousy and that's why that happened to her. But then you look at some and you think, oh, but she's strong, and that's not happening to her. But it's like it can happen to anyone. It really
The,
can.
the other factor to consider in that case is the class difference. He
Yes.
was he was of a completely different class to her. It was very shocking that he was near and with her. He was being. It was kind of never going to last. She was. I don't know if she was effectively his bit on the side, or
But he was
did he
engaged at one point.
believe, did he, yeah, he was engaged to someone else. He really did, like you say, he absolutely dragged her through the ringer. But the cynical part of me knows that this is still the case now. The people who pull the strings are the people who have the largest coffers, the biggest purses, can cough up the most money.
Yeah.
I think rich people are still running a lot of stuff. As I said, it was a political at that time. To get a stay of execution was more of a political matter than a judicial matter, and she didn't. That might have been what fed into the fact that she couldn't get it. And yeah, was there some political angle on it to suggest we don't want other women thinking they can live this kind of life?
Yeah, and they can get
We
away
don't
with
want them
killing
getting above
someone.
their station, do we? Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't want them getting out of control now, do we?
Well, I think there was definitely an aspect of that there. Because
Mm.
even her barrister was very much, just say this and do this, and he wasn't really listening to what she
Mm,
wanted and what she was saying.
mm,
But it just,
yeah.
it was one of the saddest things. I mean, the series is definitely worth
Mm,
watching,
mm,
but to me, it was just like it's
yeah.
one of the saddest cases in terms of, that there was a case not massively recently, but a woman that killed her husband that was abusing her, and she was sent to prison, but she's been released now. That I think the law's slightly changed, doesn't it, regarding like coercive control and domestic violence, because it's
Mm,
put down as self-defense.
yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
gosh, our times have changed.
and should change,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because for all the will in the world, it's not easy to even admit sometimes when something like that is happening to you.
Mm,
Especially if
mm,
you are a strong woman and you don't want to, again, we've talked a lot about how the brain works, but the
mm,
brain likes to perceive you as you, it's what you think. So if you think of yourself as a strong woman, then suddenly looking vulnerable or weak in any way becomes unpalatable.
mm,
And so you won't do it. And so you'll put up with stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah. How will that shift the image? This couldn't possibly be happening to me, kind of blocking it out.
Mm.
Going to a different place when it's happening and just carrying on like it's not happening because it's more terrifying to admit it.
And
Yeah.
it's hard as well. I mean, with social media and everything now, again, just bringing all the modern stuff in that, Ruth Ellis didn't have in the 50s that would have
No,
perhaps affected the case and
no.
things. But if you're perceived by others, whether that be online or in real life, as having certain traits. So if you're thin, for example, with long hair, and suddenly you gain weight and have to cut your hair for some reason, then you're not you anymore. And you then having to kind of come to terms with the fact that the two things that you were best known for, you don't have anymore. And that could be
Mm,
devastating to someone's psyche.
yeah. I hope, most people can see themselves in other things beyond physical appearance, but actually you're talking about, social media in this modern age, then maybe not.
I mean, it can
Maybe
work on
not.
personality and that as well. I mean, suddenly you can have
Mm,
someone that perhaps, for whatever reason, whether it be circumstance or hormonal, or goes through a quite lively and are known for being the life and soul of the party, but then they start kind of hermiting. They don't want to go out and they get a little depressed,
mm,
and it becomes this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy in terms of,
mm,
but that's not me anymore. So I'm not me anymore. And it's really difficult. And especially if you throw in with the wrong person, you that's it. You've got to be so careful out there. Be
I
careful,
feel like
people.
there's I feel like there's a soapbox for you that I could just
Yes.
gently shift over now that you might climb onto, and then we could head
Oh,
into Nicky's Chronicles of Dating.
yeah. It's it's one of those things that I think that
Well, sorry, you go.
I'd want to speak to all young people and sort of just explain. in terms of, what to look for, the red flags and things like that. Because I think if we could identify I mean, you can still identify red flags and do nothing about it. The problem is, I think a lot of people fall in love. I think Ruth Ellis specifically fell in love with his potential rather than who he was,
Mm,
because it was very romanticized. Again, I'm talking about the series more than anything, but I can
yeah,
imagine it happened in real
yeah.
life. He was a bit of a fly boy. He was rich. He was, and he was a little bit of a womanizer, but not too much. And it was very romantic and passionate with him. And you
Mm,
could see how she could fall in love with the potential of that, the,
mm.
the true love kind of potential. But the reality,
Couldn't
the
we all?
actions were very different though. And
I
it's
fell in love
so
with the
hard.
potential. Well, I fell in love with the potential who with someone who would get on with some DIY, but that doesn't happen. Like I fell in love with the potential of someone who would finish a blinking DIY job in the house, but it never happens.
So
You
all you've
know?
got is a half house full of stuff that's
Yeah, yeah. Little, like really little annoying things get left. Like this is an example in at one point we had the bathroom and it was the skirting board and there was just this one little place that was missed that annoyed me so much that I mean I could have done it, not that I'm very good at it, it would have been a botch job, but in the end I just went and bought a plant pot and put it in front of it
you
because I
did.
got sick to death of looking at it, so I just covered it up.
Oh, I've
But
done that.
it was only like this little bit. It was this one little bit of skirting board that didn't get done. That's
Well,
the potential I fell in love with. I
yeah,
feel
but
cheated.
I kind of feel like, with my partner, I guess, I'm very much in terms of, if I can pay someone to do that job, I don't really care about it. That's not the main. I'd rather have a loving, sweet, kind, supportive
Oh, all
partner
right. I
than
mean, I
than
think we've had
Mr.
this discussion,
DIY.
Nikki.
Yes, we've
We've
had
had
it
this
many
discussion,
times.
Nikki, and
Yeah. Because if
all
I can
I'm
pay a
saying
handyman
is,
just to come in and do it, then that's what's going to happen. If I can pay a mechanic to do my car, that's what's going to happen. I don't, that it's not on my, it's nice to have, but it's certainly not on my wish list.
trying to bring a bit of humor in. I was just making a
I know.
joke. It's all right. Like, just soapbox, soapbox. Do you want to know a bit about hanging?
Go on.
Yeah, would you like to know a
Why
bit about
not?
hanging? Yeah, just chucking it out there because when I'm researching this, what rabbit hole did I think I'd
Mm,
go down? The act of hanging, and actually Albert Pierpoint. So
yes.
you heard of him, the one who
Yep.
executed 400 people. Kind of prided himself that he could do it from leaving the cell to the point of hanging in about 20 seconds.
Mm.
That it would be very quick, that it would be very like humane as it could be, but of course that's why hanging was eventually abolished because of the kind of it wasn't very humane. But some of the things they would do, so what would happen is that they a couple of days before they would weigh the prisoner, or the person who was due to be executed. And then they would do a little trial run with sandbags because it's got to be obviously a short drop is what, medieval times when you wouldn't drop very far and that you would slowly asphyxiate. But so obviously in modern terms, we want it to be quick. We want to break the neck. So
Mm.
they then adopted the long drop, but make your long drop too long. And I love the fact that it's called long drop because it also makes me think of camping and other things that happen down a long drop. But anyway, the long drop, if it's too long, it will decapitate the person, or it could kind of only partially break the neck, in which case, again, they're going to be in a lot of pain and they're going to slowly asphyxiate, which is a slow death. So they would weigh the person, and if it's like a man, like a full-size man, probably needs only about an 8 to 10 foot drop. And then someone like Ruth Ellis, who was like a petite woman, would probably have needed to about a 13 foot, 10 to 13 foot sort of drop, to effectively break the neck straight away. Or it wouldn't always break the neck straight away, but bring about instant unconsciousness. So then it would knock the person out. So then again, and then there would still be, it would be painless because they wouldn't be conscious, they wouldn't know that they were asphyxiating. And so what they would do, they would do a little test run before with sandbags. So they'd fill sandbags to the weight of the person and just test the drop and make sure that it was work. It was of course a trapdoor that would drop out from under the person to create the drop, and then they would leave them there for a little while just to make sure, just to double, triple check. And then the doctor would be present to be able to come forward and say that, yes, this person has died and the cause of death is. They would also, the rope, And I think I've got this right. I believe it would be here under the left-hand side. So when you say that the sort of hangman's rope, the hangman's knot is a very specific knot, and it would be here so that it would force the person's head back and be more likely to cause the neck to break. Yeah,
So,
pretty grim, pretty grim. And then, of course, they would be buried in an unmarked grave at the prison where it took place. So that, of course, in Ruth Ellis's case is HMP Royal Holloway. But she was later reinterred and had a gravesite, which I think her son visited frequently. Um, and did he leave a note there, maybe, when he died by suicide? I can't remember now. Um, but
so,
yeah, so
so
pretty grim.
it wasn't like in the westerns then, where they have them on a horse. They slap the
Yeah.
horse's butt.
Yeah, and the horse would run away. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is another one that gets dramatized a lot, doesn't it? In other, or I think the medieval ones where you see him kind of going and rolling around a bit as they asphyxiate with a short drop. But it was still even then. So though that was considered humane, and Albert Pierpoint would, of course, have tried to make sure that it had this right. It was important to him. I mean, when did he decide that that was the career for him? To end 400 lives in your career. Do you think
Well,
they presented him with a cake?
no,
400.
not.
Well done, Albert.
I dread to think what it would have looked like, the cake, like a red velvet, maybe. I don't know. But he was quoted like saying about Ruth Ellis that he had killed hundreds of men, but she was literally the bravest person
Yeah, I heard
that
that as well.
he knew that had gone to the rope. And
Yeah.
again, that says everything to me. And it's like, for
Mm.
what she endured with that relationship, I'm going to put bunny ears around relationship because it was just a toxic mess.
Mm.
And everything that went wrong to put her in that position, she was just, nobody really wanted to do it, did they? No,
No.
I think it was just going through the motions, which is probably why she was the last.
Well,
Because
it
at
was
some
that
point,
line, wasn't it? It was the line that and there was prior to Ruth Ellis, there was a woman who had killed her daughter-in-law.
mm,
Yeah, and she'd killed her daughter-in-law, but she'd killed her by setting her on fire. So really, yeah, gruesome nastiness. And I think she was a couple of years before Ruth Ellis, and she did get a stay of execution. She
oh,
didn't. She got life imprisonment. And so there was that. I think that case was quoted quite frequently. And then there is another case of a young man that's quite a famous one. I'd have to look up the name though, because, menopausal brain. But there was a young man, and I think they believe, he was 19, but actually he was kind of functioning perhaps at the age of a 10-year-old. I think he'd started to suffer from convulsions at some point in his childhood, and that had kind of changed his development, changed his brain makeup. And he was 10 years old, and he was 19 years old at the time. He was in a robbery with someone else. Somebody else shot a police officer who was holding him. He was quoted of saying, "Let him have it."
oh yes, yes, I remember
Yeah,
that.
you know this
Yeah,
one.
that
And
was
then,
dramatized as well, wasn't it?
oh, was it? I haven't seen
Yeah,
that one. I
because
only read about it.
the guy that actually shot the police officer, he had the IQ of I think a 12-year-old or something.
No, no, the guy who they accused who was being held by the police officer had a low IQ. The
Uh
other guy was only like 16. So
yeah,
he was a kid himself, but he shot the police officer, and then because of joint enterprise, they were both held
they were
and
both
both
held over.
accused of
Yeah.
murder. So then he was executed, he was hung. And there was a lot of public outcry about that one as well, because really, one, he didn't actually do the deed. He did
Mm.
not pull the trigger. And it was a lot, again, it was like in the Ruth Ellis case, there's these kind of quotes that float around that kind of that person has said, which then kind of defines their guilt. And there was, I think it was quoted, he'd said, "Let him have it." So because he'd said, "Let him have it," it was suggested that he'd encouraged him to shoot the guy.
But he could have been saying let him have the gun.
Yeah, he could
There's
have.
an ambiguity there that nobody's really
Mm,
kind of taken into
mm.
consideration.
And
But
again, they're probably people that, at the time would didn't look great for society. We don't really want these wild, brave brilliant women running around because that's going to
No.
upset the status quo? And do we really want somebody, who's isn't able to function at this particular level? Is this not an opportunity to, clean up society? And I do not say that as a way that I believe it in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying, at the time, I think
Well,
there's
it's a public lesson, isn't
factors
it,
like that.
to not pick up the gun and defend yourself in those
Mm.
situations. I mean, she didn't have to. I mean, I
Mm,
would say that as well. I mean, you don't have to go to the extreme of killing him, whoever's abusing you, but
mm.
I can
But could
understand.
she see a way out? Could she see a way
Well,
out? That's the thing. I don't think.
I also think she was
Um,
encouraged by that other guy.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
the other thing. I
he
mean,
didn't like him.
if she'd perhaps had a friend because she had a friend that died in a car accident, didn't she? That was quite
Mm,
close to her, and it was like a series of very unfortunate events that got to that
mm,
hangman's noose. And I think if that friend had perhaps still been around, she'd have talked her down. You know,
mm,
I think that if
mm,
she hadn't have had that guy in her life, she wouldn't
mm.
have had access to the gun. She
Well, she
wouldn't have.
wouldn't, yeah, she just wouldn't have been able to do any of that stuff. If you don't
Yeah,
have, it's like the gun law in America, isn't it? They want their right to hold arms, but if you just don't have access to this stuff, then you cannot do the thing.
yeah.
She might have run up to him in the street and pounded on his chest for a bit and
Need him
maybe
in the
been taken,
balls.
need him in the balls and been taken to, probably the asylum, probably, but maybe have got some treatment and some support and, as much as supportive as the asylums were at the time. But, it could have been a very different story,
But
couldn't it?
from the flip side, it's also a little bit of a kind of, I guess, a cautionary tale to men like that. That at some point that woman is gonna, you you pick the wrong woman to do that to, and she is gonna go off.
I don't know. I
I'd
think
like it as a cautionary tale.
controlling, yeah, I think, yeah, you like that. I think, again, I think that's probably us being quite, just going very broad strokes across what is a very complex topic. And, something, unless you're on the inside of it, knowing how easy it is to get away, to gear yourself up to do something like that is, yeah, probably something we don't know the ins and outs of.
No. And I think it was just really, like I said, I think a lot of unfortunate events led her to that point.
Yes,
She
just to
certainly didn't
note,
deserve it.
just to note, we're using that in a true sense and not the popular children's book and
No,
TV, book and film
there
series.
was no Count Olaf in her life, unfortunately. Maybe she did, fared
Oh,
better
again, had there
having him as a
been, had
friend.
there
Yeah.
been. I like that we are dramatizing stories like this, that we are, talking about Ruth Ellis. And I think that marks a change in society. And in some way is in honor to her, that her story gets told, that other
Yeah.
young women, get to hear the story and maybe it becomes a cautionary tale. Maybe it highlights some red flags, for some
Well,
people.
definitely. I mean, because otherwise she's just a scorned woman who took the life of her lover,
Mm, mm,
and you didn't see what he did to her or how he treated her, and just just even taking the physical side away, just the lying and the cheating and just the kind of, I mean, you mentioned like the classes and things like that, and he was very kind of showy as well. In the series, I
mm,
couldn't tell you about the guy in real life, and I wouldn't want to.
mm.
But
But
he definitely love
you know,
bombed. You can see love
stories,
bombing, you can see coercive
yeah.
control in that
And
relationship.
and I think stories like that are very easily buried, and hers
Yes.
have been for many years.
Yeah.
So, well done ITV for, raising the platform. I think, and I think I said this to you before, I think that Bjork, and maybe viewers, listeners, come and tell us if I've got this right, or come and shout me down if I've got this wrong. Because I swear that I have seen a film with Bjork in it where she is in, I think she's in an abusive relationship. I think that's how it is. And then she goes to the noose. She's hanged at the end of the story. Sorry, spoilers alert. If anybody's like, I haven't seen that
You
Bjork
haven't
film.
even said the title.
Really fancy. Well, I don't know. Is it Dancer in the Dark?
Oh, hang on. That does sound familiar.
Dancer in the Dark might be a different film, but I'm going to look it up. I am going to look it up. But at the end, there's a like as she walks to, because it's very Bjork. It's Bjork's kind of music. So at the end, there's like a tick tock, tick tock, and she walks to the gallows to kind of singing and music and not sort of righteousness. I'm going to look.
Well,
Dancer in.
you've got something similar in Chicago, the musical. I mean, I know although
Yeah,
it's kind of
he had it
funny,
coming.
yeah, he had it
He
coming.
had it coming.
And I'd say
He
all
only
the
had
stories.
himself, but okay. Dancer in the Dark is a 2000 musical psychological tragedy written and directed by Lars von Trier. Stars Icelandic musician Bjork as a factory worker who suffers from a degenerative eye condition. Oh, so
Okay,
no, it's not the same story
that's not the
there.
same story.
She's saving to suffer from a certain. What does she do? She gets hung at the end. She definitely. Sorry, spoiler alert again. And I'm sure there's a guy in it who's not nice because he's quite a famous actor. And then
But you've got all the
mm,
Chicago stories in that song, and all of them were abusive. All
mm,
of them were toxic
mm.
relationships. They were cheaters, liars, physically
And then
abusive,
he ran
mentally
into
abusive.
my knife. He ran into my knife 10 times.
Yeah, well, I see why,
That's
mate.
the part I've played. Yes, yes.
Was it?
Oh
When you
no!
were in
What
Chicago?
about the one? Yeah, what about the one long, very, very long time ago? The popping, the one with the popping.
Oh, yes, yeah.
He chewed gum, and I said to him, "You pop that gum
Yeah, any more
one
and we have to
more
pay for the
time."
song.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
And then he did, do we? Will
But
we
yeah,
get caught
you can
out for
kind of
that?
see that, and the one we're meant to feel sorry for is the one at the end who's innocent. It's like, hang on.
Oh no. Okay, it's very American. It's not based on Ruth Ellis. I've just
Oh,
confused them. She is accused she's accused of being a communist sympathizer
oh,
and of
okay.
pretending to be blind to exploit the American healthcare system.
Oh, fair enough.
Bit different.
That well, it's a rabbit hole that led us down another Warren.
It did. It's a good
It did.
film, and if you like a bit of Bjork, I'm not going to sing another song, so we'll get us in even more trouble. I kind of want
Yes,
to say,
you can't
oh,
do
no.
the algorithms
I've
will
stopped.
get
I've
us.
stopped. I've stopped. I've stopped. We don't have copyright codes for these
No.
things.
And on that note, listeners and viewers, we are going to wrap it up on our little tirade. No. Oh,
Maybe we
our
should
expose on
starting to
Ruth
enter
Ellis.
into TV now.
Maybe we should.
We've
But
done a
yeah,
few. Oh,
I think if you're wanting to watch it, the ITV series, oh, I've even forgotten the name of the title of the series. It's something like a bad love or something like that, a cruel love.
yeah, yeah. A Cruel Love, the Ruth
Cruel
Ellis
Love.
story, I
And it
think.
was, yeah, it was very well done and
Hmm.
just again explains everything in terms of the
Yeah,
intricacies of the relationship from information that they had, that the writers
yeah.
actually had.
From my research, it
Mm.
seemed pretty accurate. There was
Yeah,
nothing that came when I was reading about it came glaring out as very, very different from
yeah,
the
it definitely
dramatization.
it honored her. And
Hmm.
I kind of ITV, well done. You have my thumbs up. You have Nicky's two thumbs up for your storytelling and yeah. So yes, so do remember to, look up the case yourselves. Do remember to follow the Red Rabbit wherever you find your podcasts. Remember to subscribe. Please subscribe to us because it doesn't
We're
cost you
desperate.
anything. We are getting desperate. But yeah, if you could please just subscribe and then you'll get our madness on a weekly and sometimes
You
monthly
need to be
basis.
more like lackadaisical about it. You need to be a bit more blasé, like, just
Do it
tap
if you want
that
to.
like button, tap that subscribe, this is fine. You don't have to, but we'd like it if you did.
Yeah, yeah, if you feel the
I
need.
don't, I mean, you're the one with the sales technique. I'm not sure mine was there. That was it.
I'd rather be direct. Just do it, please, for the love of all that's holy. Follow
I
us.
mean,
Give
I
us
think
stickers.
our YouTube videos might be the only one that say please on them.
Oh, do they? Well, remember, we are on all the social media platforms as well. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and also, obviously, YouTube.
Hmm.
And we have a Patreon if you feel the need. And
Yes.
there's extra content on the Patreon
Where I
going
would, I mean,
months in advance.
I keep promising loads of extra content on there, but if somebody asks for it, I'll do it. I'll do you a full rendition of
Oh,
He
no,
Had It
no,
Coming.
no, 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 no.
The cell block
We can't
tango,
afford it.
should you require it.
And I'll do the If You're Good for
In a
to
red
Mama
rabbit
song.
costume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a
I love that
great
song.
number.
You're good
And
to
you would
Mama.
be brilliant at that because I want you to do that bit where she goes, she can
I can do that.
do
Anywho.
that.
And on that note, we
I
will
see
say
it. It's
goodbye.
unfolding in my mind. We're doing it.
You've
A
already directed
live
it
show. Live show when we go live with the rabbit hole.
live down the rabbit hole. Oh no. Well, that's something to look forward
Oh,
to. We will see you later, listeners.
thanks for
Yeah.
listening, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.